with people not really paying attention to it and framing it as, part of the climate crisis response. But this whole play of digital ID, digital wallet, surveillable programmable money has advanced a lot. And it's not just CBDCs. The CBDC discussion is about keeping attention on a very narrow band of what they're doing, but it's much broader than that. So what we really need to do to defeat things like this is to not engage and become part of that system, because we risk entering into this Brazil style type dictatorship that's incompetent, but also like very totalitarian and authoritarian and violent. And you don't want to brush up against that, because it's not like they'll correct their incompetence when they get caught. I mean, look at how the system is now. I mean, It's basically like digitizing that system, developing it at scale. And it's a way for, the crony capitalists, these there's so many different ways to talk about them, but, essentially they're the people at the top of the 1% that engage in blatant financial criminal activities to steal from people beneath them. Right. And so they want to deepen the divide between the haves and the have-nots, and they want to basically make like digital barriers to maintain that, and AI is part of that. And these systems, this whole idea of like carbon offsets and the carbon market in general, most people aren't going to be able to afford all the offsets that the elite are going to be able to afford. Right. I mean, it's a way, this is all part of this system, and that's leading us to neo-feudalism, as I've called it before. And so essentially, we really can't get out of this if we, unless we choose not to interact with the system and create something either parallel, or just find some way to live your life without having to really interact with the digital ID and the digital wallet at all. And there's a lot of different ways it seems like it's coming together. The World Bank is working with these other entities, including the ones in this article about Green Plus that are direct partners of Green Plus, to create the climate wallet that's tied up with the whole idea of doing CBDCs and all of that, right? And things related to that, the private sector equivalent. They call it the climate wallet. Yeah, because it's all tied up with carbon emissions, and there's this, the carbon taxes and all of that. And this is why, I would like to point out, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but bring it up again, the whole idea of SpaceX being involved in launching these Green Plus satellites. Elon Musk is a big proponent of carbon taxes and has been for a very long time.
Oh, he benefits massively.
And of course he's framed himself as being sort of this like libertarian free speech hero after, his acquisition of X, which, again, he's been fairly open about. His goal is to turn X into WeChat USA and make it half of the financial system, I guess, to start. But beyond that, the idea is to also have, carbon emissions, carbon taxes, intimately interfaced with this coming digital ID, digital wallet paradigm. And there's a lot of different efforts to create those systems, but it's not just going to be one system. It's going to be a mosaic of interoperable systems. ID 2020, for example, a big force behind the vaccine passport push during example, that's the Rockefellers and Gates and all of that. It's not about making one global digital ID. And unfortunately,
River's the best place to buy Bitcoin. Go to river.com/TFTC, sign up today, set up an account, and start stacking sats.
Unfortunately, a lot of people in independent media, when there was a lot of reporting on this during COVID, missed the boat on this one. It's not about one global digital ID system. It's several digital ID systems that are all interoperable, and to have them all interlaced with each other so you can export the data to one global central database. And it's the same for, CBDCs and the stable coins and all of that. The goal is to have it all be interoperable and all the wallets. And the same is true also for the carbon market. And all of these are meant to go together. The pillars of the new financial system, this new financial governance system, involves all of these things. And so, we a lot of times the carbon market gets ignored. A lot of times the private sector CBDC equivalents get ignored. But we need to look at this stuff holistically, because there's a lot of other stuff going on here. And, we are ignoring the carbon aspect of this to our peril, because this is, again, as we said, or as we discussed earlier, a new reiteration of the junk bond villains, as it were. But now they're not just trying to take bad debt and they're using the natural world to fuel their debt schemes, basically. And there's also this effort that's been, posited by Larry Fink and Mark Carney and people like them to reimagine the World Bank and the entire multilateral development system, which for its entire existence has been about debt enslavement, mainly of the global South. And so those same people say one of the key ways of financing Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, is debt. So we have to saddle these countries in debt, and we have to, because of this idea that if we don't do this, the planet will explode.